Welcome to the Realm Kast. I am the Mortal Kombat FANTiM, and with me as always is the man whose knowledge of Raiden will spark your interest, our lore master, Yanni. Welcome, Yanni.
Thanks, FANTiM.
And with us today, we also have the CEO of Mortal Kombat fans, tabmok99. Welcome, tabmok.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you on today. Usually, whenever we bring a guest on, we like to ask them who is their favorite character or Mortal Kombat game.
Okay, well, I've got to break it down into two categories then. For the lore, I've got to say my favorite character is Scorpion. I always love the idea that this is a guy who's after revenge, but he's also got a sense of honor, and what he really wants is to be reunited with his family and clan. But for gameplay, especially in the old school games, it's Shang Tsung. I just love the ability to morph and to mix people up and be any character at any time.
Classic Shang.
Mortal Kombat 2 Shang Tsung was by far my favorite. He's switching at any time. Yeah.
Yes, and then at the end, every single fatality you've got access to, and most of the friendships.
That's a great point. I never even held my morph on long enough to use the fatalities. That was way
too much memorization for me at that
time. So, tabmok, tell us a little bit. How has Mortal Kombat affected you? I mean, you already have a successful YouTube channel, but tell us a bit about your history with Mortal Kombat.
Well, I've played Mortal Kombat since the very first one, since it was released on the home systems, Super Nintendo, Sega. So Mortal Kombat, since I grew up with it, since I played it from such a young age, it's basically like the window through which I view the world. You know, I view everything through a Mortal Kombat filter, if you will. It got me into learning computers, learning how to build websites.
Wow.
Like the reason that I made the Combat Pavilion was basically my interest in Mortal Kombat kind of led me there. So I learned like a little bit of programming, learned how to do, now I've made the pivot to video. So I've got my YouTube channel. I learned how to do video editing thanks to Mortal Kombat. So I'd really say that all my computer skills, technical skills, or anything else, I owe to Mortal Kombat.
And tell our fans a little bit more about the Combat Pavilion for those who aren't that familiar with it.
Okay, so the Combat Pavilion was a website that I started way back in the 90s. And I've never really taken it down. I've just kept it going. At some point, it kind of turned into a site where people would send in their fan comics. They would send animations, and I would collect comics from other places too. So like if people would post a comic on a discussion board somewhere, or like post an animated GIF or a Flash movie, I would kind of copy it over to the Combat Pavilion, and plus a lot of people would submit that stuff. And it just kind of grew into this great site with a lot of wonderful fan-generated content. People made special intros just for the Combat Pavilion. I would randomize it so that every time people landed on the splash page, it would show off a different intro. Somebody made like an amazing 404 file not found page for me, which was suggested by Dark Bishop. And it was animated by a guy named Tim Reeves, and they just did great work. Speaking of Dark Bishop, I also did a lot of work with mk5.org. So the number one Mortal Kombat news site, now better known as Mortal Kombat Online. Had a chance to go to a lot of cool events in the industry. I went to things like E3, Midway Gamers Day, GameStars Live. Got a chance to do interviews with people like Ed Boon and some of the other developers. Really had a long and fruitful Mortal Kombat career.
The Pavilion was really part of me growing up with MK, actually. I think I found out about all the Mugans and stuff through it. I would just find random content through it. It's been a great resource. Thank you for it.
Oh, thank you. And I really have to say that was kind of a love letter to all the other fan works that were being created. Fan-made games, fan art, fan comics, just so much great stuff out there that it was nice. That all I really felt like I was doing was putting it all in one spot for everybody to kind of get it. But there have been so many random things released over the years, like screensavers and Winamp skins and whatnot, that I just wanted to collect it all and kind of make it easy for people to find everything.
That's so cool. I didn't even realize that it was still up.
I didn't until now either, actually.
So I'm going to have to go back and look at it now.
Yeah, no, it's still there.
You're still also heavily involved with Mortal Kombat Online, aren't you?
Yes. In fact, the most recent thing we did was I got a chance to fly out to London and go to the Mortal Kombat 11 reveal party for Mortal Kombat Online. I got a chance to interview Sean Hemmerich.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah. I got a chance to interview Sean Hemmerich there, Derek Hertzik. Just so much fun stuff. In fact, my interview with Sean Hemmerich, with Derek Hertzik actually, was one of the first that talks about the possibility of MK11 introducing crossplay. And sure enough, they went and did it.
So before I jump into today's topics, quick question for you. How do you spell Raiden?
Well, there's two ways. The arcade, Raiden, and of course for the home console, Rayden.
How do you personally spell it? Because that's going to
With an
be
I.
something that,
With an
with
I.
an I. All right.
Yeah, I have to agree.
But look, I know I might be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but I know the topic. We're going to kind of cover some stuff like the Malibu Comics. It's really interesting because if you look at the split between the RAI camp and the RAY camp, the original comics by John Tobias had RAI. And in the Malibu comics, they switched it up with RAY because, the readers would be more familiar with the home versions by that point.
Although I think it was the Mortal Kombat 4 prequel comic, I think they spelt it with a Y for some reason. I noticed that.
Yeah, and I think because at that point they were trying to just it might be considered jarring to the readers who were familiar with the home versions to all of a sudden switch back to the arcade one. So they kind of kept it RAY a little bit more. In fact, even if you look at the movies, if you let the credits scroll, RAY for Raiden.
Yeah.
Really? You mean the original Mortal Kombat movie?
Christopher Lambert.
Wow.
And James Remar, even Mortal Kombat Conquest,
Yep.
even with Jeff Meek. I'm sure if you asked him for a copy of the Mortal Kombat Conquest television script, if he still has it, and I hope he does, I'm sure they spell it RAY.
Now, for those of our fans who don't know this, the reason they end up changing on the home console is because there was already a game called Raiden, spelled RAI, and in order to avoid legal disputes, they went ahead and changed it to RAY.
Exactly. And they might have been, a little bit overly cautious there.
Yeah, considering it's just one character, but he was supposed to be one of the big main ones, right? So
Exactly.
But even speaking legally, I think it was taking it a bit too far.
Yeah, it's funny. And, even Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, even they kept it with a Y for some reason. Like it was Acclaim's decision originally. Acclaim was the one that made that decision. And even after the contract with Acclaim expired, Midway just decided, you know what, let's just keep it going with RAY for a little while. So even in like Mortal Kombat 3, if you let the on Super Nintendo or on Sega, Mega Drive or Genesis, if you let the intro cycle and it says, I've abandoned the Earth Realm and it's now ruled by the Outworld gods, these are the words of Raiden. Even there, they spell it RAY.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I know it's just a simple question, and we really explored this deeply. We went on a huge tangent here.
And well, I mean, this all kind of leads us into today's topic, which is how the supplemental material for Mortal Kombat, and especially like going straight into Malibu Comics, how that has kind of affected the Mortal Kombat lore and everything else with Mortal Kombat from then on out.
Yeah, and look, this is really a great topic. In fact, I was going to make a video all about that, but I'd rather do it here with you guys.
We'd rather that
too. So I guess if you want to start from the beginning, how did Malibu Comics shape the Mortal Kombat games? I think one thing that, and you never know if it's a coincidence or not a coincidence. Maybe they did inspire it directly. But one of my favorite things was that in the Malibu Comics, they had a Dragon King before the games ever did. They called him Draxon instead of Onaga. But that was mind-blowing to me. When they first introduced Onaga, I was like, oh my god, this reminds me of the Malibu Comics.
Yes, and that was like in the Raiden and Kano stuff, wasn't it?
That's exactly right. Yeah, he was only shown in the Raiden and Kano miniseries, the 3-issue miniseries. But
funnily enough, the fact that Draxon is mentioned in the Raiden and Kano series, they also have Raiden sort of destroyed in a blast, right? And he rematerializes. And that's from Deception as well. Yeah. Or in Deception, sorry.
Yeah, no, it is in Deception. And not only that, but when he reappears, he's got a whole new outfit now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You got to come back looking cute, right?
Yeah, you got to come back new and improved. Because in that comic, he was wearing the MK1 outfit before, and then once he was blasted, he reformed with the MK2 outfit on. It's like, oh, so that's why Raiden's got a new costume. Shao Kahn just blew him up. And in Deception, obviously, he comes back as Dark Raiden. So that was they went in a different direction with that. But man, the similarities are just there. They're undeniable.
And you have a pretty good video on the entire Malibu run, which I highly recommend to our listeners. But something else you mentioned was during the Raiden and Kano issue, they also had Raiden Servants, which were named Wind, who had control of the power of the wind, much like Fujin. And they also had a character named Rain. Wind and Rain were these two female characters that kind of supported him and took care of Raiden.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think it was a really cool concept. And I wish we would have seen something like that in the series as a lore itself.
There's so many different similarities with the official Mortal Kombat games lore, right? Like, first of all, visually, those girls looked kind of like Quan Chi's assassins.
Yeah.
They reminded me a lot of Serena, Jataka, and Kia, but then there's the fact that they have different elements that they control. Like, wow, Mortal Kombat hadn't introduced any other god characters at that point. Fujin would come later. Even the purple ninja Rain would come later. But look at how much overlap there is between these two and what we ended up getting. So it really is kind of an astonishing.
In the Special Forces comics, where they have Vapor come up before Smoke coming up in Battle Wave.
Oh yeah, that was before Battle Wave, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I think Smoke was already a character, an established character in the games by that point. But since you mentioned MK Special Forces, think about the fact that later on we actually got a game called MK Special Forces.
Yeah.
Malibu knew first to concentrate on that. And then there's one other one that was not possible for me to talk about when I did the Malibu comics, but we can talk about it now. When I did that video, MK11 wasn't out yet, so I showed a character named Grum who has 6 arms, and now, of course, in MK11 we've got Collector.
They even look very similar, even aside from the 6 arms, but apart from the fact that he's red.
Yeah, kind of. Now, Collector has like sort of 2 little baby arms that kind of hang out on his back. And Grum looks more like a fully evolved Shogun, just with an extras pair, so 6 arms total. But yeah, the fact that there's a 6-armed character. Whew.
Special Forces came out around the same time as Mortal Kombat 2, but they had the character Torque in there, and I think there's another character somewhere throughout the Malibu run that had metal arms.
Lance.
Yeah, like how did they know to do metal arms before MK3 was out?
Yeah, so you kind of wonder how much input did Midway and Tobias and Boone have with these character designs.
But I think during Battle Wave, Jax actually says, I gotta get me some metal arms.
Yeah, towards the end of the whole series, he does, after Baraka chops up his arms. But that was more kind of leading into Mortal Kombat 3, which by that point, I think they had their designs.
That was the final issue. That was the final issue, that Battle Wave number 2. But you have to wonder, even way before that, with the MK Special Forces run, did they know something that the rest of us didn't? Or was it just a big coincidence with the K?
One of my favorite parts throughout this entire series was Jax. He's talking to somebody, I think it was Barack, and he's like, Mama didn't raise no fool. And then he's like, Mama Wanda Lee Briggs. He throws out his mom's whole name before he beats Baraka up.
I love that too. And it was great reading that, because it's like, all right, with MK1, we got proper character bios. They introduced Liu Kang, like they said, here's his known relatives. They'd say things like Li Kang and Lin Kang and his brother Chao Kang, whereabouts unknown. It's like, what? What is all this? For MK2, they kind of got away from that. And then Malibu brought it back by mentioning at least one of them, Wanda Lee Briggs. Okay. They should have done that more.
There was something else, too, that kind of got established here, was Goro's father, Gorbak. And that's something that kind of carried over into other media. It carried into the Mortal Kombat X comic, kind of seeing that character for the first time here.
Now, I don't think Gorbak is a Malibu character. I think that's actually a John Tobias creation.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So he was introduced before all this.
Yeah, so Gorbak was obviously mentioned in the first original MK1 comic by John Tobias. Like I said before, with the character bios, they mentioned that his father was King Gorbak and his mother was Queen Mai, and he's also got 7 wives. That's like deep MK trivia that's long forgotten now. But in MK2, they actually showed Gorbak. So when Shao Kahn is like about to execute Shang Tsung, and Shang Tsung is begging for his life, he's like, give me another chance and all that, Gorbak was right there saying, yeah, Shang Tsung deserves to die. He got Goro killed.
Which I found ironic, because the whole point of them was that their strength, right? So if Goro died, that's on Goro.
That's what I think. Everyone's responsible for their own destiny. Goro, if he lost the fight, you can't blame Shang Tsung for that.
Exactly.
No, I'm with you 100%.
See, there were a couple other characters that I think definitely influenced the games going forward. 2 of them were Zagat or Zagat and his brother Abacus.
Oh my God, the God of Chaos was actually mentioned in MK Deception, not by name.
Oh, so I was curious about that. They actually mentioned the God of Chaos during Deception?
They did. Yeah, There's if you talk to some of the NPCs, they'll say, when you go into Chaos Realm, they'll say, the God of Chaos unleashed the Tempest, which is, the Tempest is like this weird thing in the middle of the stage, I guess, that kind of scrambles everyone's minds. If you spend too much time in Chaos Realm, it'll scramble your mind too. So yeah, the God of Chaos unleashed that.
Bear in mind, they said all this backwards.
Yeah, you have to read the text on the bottom of the screen to get it.
And I think that also went into influence the Chaos Realm and the Order Realm, of course, because Abacus even works out of a library of order or something like that he's kind of operating out of throughout the series.
That's true. And not only that, Abacus and Zagat are kind of using the rest of the Mortal Kombat characters as a bunch of pawns, and they're literally playing like a cosmic chess game with them, which kind of reminds me of chess combat.
Chess combat, yes.
Oh, I miss it.
when they got tired of chess combat, they would start playing Grand Theft Auto or
I don't know about Grand Theft Auto, but maybe Motor Combat for sure.
Yanni, I think you kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. Smoke and Jade throughout this series. This was before there was any real lore established between the two of them, and they made them into this pair of like a duo team that worked for Shao Kahn.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see the difference in how the characters progressed.
Yeah, it was. They weren't the characters that we knew anymore. They were so different. Seeing the two of them working together like that.
Just the fact that Smoke wasn't part of the Lin Kuei was a huge change, you know?
It was, and especially, you know, they kind of deviated from the Tobias story a little bit here, because Tobias had already established with the MK2 comic that Smoke is Lin Kuei. And that was actually ignored by pretty much everything else. No one was really paying attention to that until MK3, when it became truly canon. But even if you look at like the action figures, right, released by Hasbro, on the back of them, they had some cards with character information and trivia and stuff like that. And with Smoke, they never said he was a Lin Kuei. They said that he was like brainwashed by Shang Tsung. And if you slice him in half, he becomes two warriors. Like he's literally made of smoke. So that was like a really fun difference for him.
For me, it was just funny because literally every time he turned up, he said toasty before he said anything else.
Yes.
Oh my God. It was a little cheesy.
They had to tie that in.
Like everybody gave so much crap to the comic run for like characters talking in third person. If you're gonna do anything, talk about the toasty.
You know who got the toasty thing right was MK Legends Scorpion's Revenge, when Johnny Cage kills Baraka and he says toasty afterward. That actually fits.
Also, something that's kind of made headlines recently, I've seen a lot of news articles published about this, was that NetherRealm senior character artist Solomon Caton, he had released his design mock-up of Shao Kahn. And so a lot of media outlets, for the first time, have seen Shao Kahn without a mask and without his armor on. But for Mortal Kombat fans...
Yeah, without pants.
Yeah, without pants. But for Mortal Kombat fans, this is not that new of a design to us, because we saw Shao Kahn without his helmet through pretty much every issue of the Malibu Comics.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And we saw it... and if we've been paying very careful attention, we've seen it in MK Shaolin Monks, right? We've seen it in some of the statues and figures that have been released. We saw it, of course, in the original Mortal Kombat 2 comic by John Tobias, the Midway one. So yeah, we knew what Shao Kahn was like under the helmet.
I just feel like they took it a lot further with sort of deforming him, you know? Because now he's got so many like dragon-like elements to him, rather than just looking a bit more monstrous in the past.
Yeah, I think they took Shao Kahn in a different direction visually. I'm not sure if all the Mortal Kombat fans are quite behind that. It almost seemed like they didn't want to introduce Onaga, so they just kind of made a version of Shao Kahn that's sort of a mishmash of Shao Kahn and Onaga together, which will take away from who Onaga is if they ever do want to reintroduce him into the series again. If they ever want to give us an Onaga, he's going to be too similar to Shao Kahn, so I'm not really sure if that was the best choice. Also if you pay attention to all the character dialogue intros, there is one where, I believe it's between Katana and Raiden, where they mention that Shao Kahn has absorbed Onaga's power. And they're trying to give us an explanation for why Shao Kahn looks like this now, even though he didn't before.
I have not seen that intro. Is that a new one? Like, has that been added with a patch?
No, that was there from day one.
Wow, how have I missed that one?
You know, there's like a million intros. It's kind of hard to keep on top of all of
To
them.
be fair, as well, if you're playing with somebody and if you beat them and it restarts the match, for some reason they always seem to use the exact same dialogue intros, as far as I've experienced. Same thing with the actual intro sort of cinematics.
You know, and then the other problem is the other player a lot of times wants to just skip the fight, so you don't even get a chance to see him.
True.
That also ties in probably to one of our conversations on the last episode, with how in the canceled Mortal Kombat X continuation of that story of the comic books, Goro actually absorbed Onaga's spirit. So I know that History Behind the Warrior has made a full breakdown of that story, and I haven't watched the ending of it, so I wonder if Shao Kahn did end up getting that power in the comic book or the comic book that never got made.
I feel like that would have been mentioned by Sean Kittleson when he spoke about it.
I've seen Sean Kittleson make some comments about this idea before. Basically, my understanding is he conceptualizes Shao Kahn, Onaga, Reptile, and all the Shokan characters as being at least part reptilian. And so they would be like compatible to be vessels for Onaga's soul. So if Onaga can't just consume anybody, he can be like embalmed in Reptile's soul, which is what we saw happen in the old timeline. A Reptile was undergoing this transformation. He was already kind of destabilizing, and bam, Onaga took over. That was his opportunity to make his move. But apparently, he can find any host as long as they're part reptilian. So yeah, somebody like Reptile, of course, would work. Now they're saying that Shao Kahn is part dragon. They're saying that Shao Kahn would all be good hosts. So that's kind of where he was going for the MKX Comics Season 2. I think now, even in MK11, they're hinting that Liu Kang is possibly descended from Onaga. Like that, he's literally part dragon now. That explains his dragon transformation. So, yeah, I hear that. I hear that sigh. I hear that exasperation. You don't even need the words, man.
It's like what you said about diminishing the effect of Onaga. So just if firstly Liu Kang is descended from Onaga, or if Shao Kahn is able to absorb Onaga's soul and then later becomes Onaga, that would really ruin the effect of Onaga returning to the series.
Yeah, his entrance.
That also kind of diminishes the old series. Like that's one thing that while reading the Malibu comics, I really got a sense of how everything was established. It was the Earth Realmers versus the other realms. And like even Kano was on the Earth Realm team, and he was a bad guy and he was like the villain of the Earth Realm team. But if he won, the Earth Realm was winning. And having all these characters kind of tie back into stuff outside of the Earth Realm now, it takes away from that. It makes them no longer human.
Yeah. Well, you brought this up. I'm kind of thinking about the Malibu comics, and I just got reminded of that whole issue where Shao Kahn is marrying Sonya. And, oh, man.
With Reptile's mind manipulation.
Oh, yeah, hypnosis.
And Shang Tsung was the best man.
Literally introduces himself as the best man, too.
And I don't know why Melina wasn't the maid of honor, but, oh, man. And in the Mortal Kombat movie, it seemed like for a while, Shang Tsung had designs on marrying Sonya. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Yes. And not only that, but also I think the whole Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade romance was something that was first kind of dabbled with in the Malibu comics.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so they really kind of expanded on that in the movie. But for most people, that was like a brand new thing that nobody even realized that those two should be a couple.
Yeah, the whole Johnny Cage, Sonya hooking up thing, I'd say Malibu definitely got it right with that.
I was just thinking about all the things that popped up with the Malibu comics. And I mean, one huge thing that we have missed out on is Hydro.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Do one of you guys want to give the background of Hydro? Because I feel like he's such a strong character in the sub-lore of Mortal Kombat.
Okay, so Hydro, obviously his first appearance was the Malibu comics. They were the ones who invented him. He was like a Lin Kuei warrior who hung out with Sub-Zero until Scorpion killed him, and just to piss off Sub-Zero, and just because he hates the Lin Kuei anyway. So Hydro was great. I guess he had... Some people are calling him a cryomancer. Now, the word cryomancer wasn't really around back in the 90s in Mortal Kombat lore. We didn't really see that term anywhere, but it's never really clear if he's using ice powers like Sub-Zero, or if he's just using really, really cold water. But at any rate...
I was going to say, I've seen him freeze somebody, but then you're right. It could just be really, really cold water.
They get the shivers.
You might not stand completely still when you're frozen, but you're going to get hypothermia. We saw Hydro in a lot of fan projects too. We saw him in some Mugen games. We saw him in a Genesis hack called Ultimate Mortal Kombat Trilogy. So that actually works on a Sega Genesis. I have the cartridge for Sega. It's an unofficially produced one. Yeah, Hydro's in that. but like he's also in the Mugen games. The first fan creation that put him that had Hydro as a character was actually this really old fan game for MS-DOS called SF Ninja or Street Fighter Ninja. And it was like a hack of Street Fighter IBM. So it used the Street Fighter engine with Mortal Kombat characters. Hydra was in that.
Wow.
But he became semi-official with Mortal Kombat Legacy when they actually had Hydro as a cyborg.
And that was the best fight in the entire show, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Hydro was amazing. And I think did he actually get like a unit number, like LK520 or something?
I think he did.
And LK520 is actually Cyber Sub-Zero, but no, I'm thinking that Hydro got a designation too, just like that.
I'm going to search that up while we talk.
Yeah, we have to know. But Hydro's just been in so many places. How has this guy not made it into a game yet?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue was because they introduced Rain, and Rain filled that desire for a water ninja.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I've got his unit number. And I kind of find it hilarious.
1v1.
Yeah, because that was not a 1v1.
Yeah, that wasn't a fair fight at all.
Wait, what was his unit number? It's
1v1.
LK1v1?
Yeah.
Oh, I was hoping it'd be LKH20 or something.
That would have been great. Really missed opportunity there. There are a couple of other little things that pop up throughout the Malibu comics, which, I mean, this is a bit of a stretch, but we get a character called Henge, and he looks to be made of rocks, and he does pretty much nothing. But he does mention that he's apparently from the Nightmare Realm or something, which is interesting when you look at Tremor being made of, well, rocks or manipulating rocks, and then has this whole thing with the Dream Realm. The Dream Realm was something that was introduced in MK9 with Freddy, right? So it seems that they wanted to bring in this Dream Realm, which only existed in people's minds where Freddy Krueger could get to you. And they brought it back with Tremor for MKX, just for his ending and then a couple of intros. So when Tremor goes to the Dream Realm on a mission for the Black Dragon, he somehow gains strength and becomes an Earth Elemental able to take on, say, Fujin and Raiden.
That's cool. So the Dream Realm is canon now.
Well, it's not been confirmed, has it?
Well, yeah, Tremor spent time there.
It's just an interesting thought, because Tremor's the only person who has any mention of it other than Freddy. So it's very weird to think about.
And Tremor's a guest character too, so I guess he's not fully canon.
I wouldn't consider Tremor a guest character.
No, he's definitely a Mortal Kombat original character.
Yeah.
I mean, John Tobias first conceived of him for that Mortal Kombat Special Forces game we talked about.
Exactly.
Did he have anything else besides in Special Forces, though?
No, officially, it was just in the Special Forces and then...
Pretty much it. Well, the MKX comics.
Yeah, MKX comics, as well as MKX itself.
Yeah, Tremor also showed up in Mortal Kombat 2011 on the PlayStation Vita port.
Yes.
In the Challenge Tower.
Yes, in the Challenge Towers.
Yeah, so there is that. We don't want to leave the Vita port out.
So all this traces back to
Henge.
Henge.
Who did nothing. Literally just turned up, said, I am Henge from the Nightmare Realm, and then gets beaten.
No, yeah, this whole conversation hinges on that.
Hey.
I think Henge actually got beat up by my favorite character throughout the entire Malibu series, which was Johnny Cage's bodyguard, Bo.
That was before there was ever a Bo Ride Show.
Which another influence.
Good point.
Yep, I was leading into that.
Yeah. And for those who haven't read Malibu Comics, Bo is basically a Goro-sized human who wears sunglasses and protects Johnny Cage because Johnny Cage needs protection.
And a suit and a hat.
With the odd job hat.
Yeah. Well, Hollywood is really a brutal industry.
But the best part is he wasn't protecting Johnny at that time. He was protecting Liu Kang.
I don't think he protected Johnny throughout the entire series. I think Johnny just asked him to protect Liu Kang, the Mortal Kombat champion.
Now, there is one final thing I wanted to bring up that was brought in, or at least mentioned. I'm not sure if this was, I guess it's before, the Dragon Medallion in Battle Wave.
Oh, yeah, the Dragon Medallion.
Shao Kahn tasks everybody with getting the Dragon Medallion, and I don't think the Lin Kuei had ever any mention of the Dragon Medallion by this point in time.
Yeah, the Lin Kuei's Dragon Medallion and the one shown in the comics are completely different. They have the same name, that's about it. But yeah, that is another point of just the fact that they even have the same name in there. That's something. Oh, hey, speaking of the Dragon Medallion, I got to tell you that if you ever have seen Mortal Kombat the Live Tour, if you were lucky enough to have lived through that and participated by being an audience member in the Mortal Kombat Live Tour, there were actually 6 dragon medallions that the team was after, and they had to find all 6, or else Earthrealm was doomed.
Oh,
That was the story from the live tour?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
I was one of the lucky ones. I was just a kid. I was lucky enough to have my parents take me to that, and I got a chance to watch the whole thing, and it was so amazing. I loved it.
that's awesome.
You know what? That ties back into something else I'm about to tell you. But before I go into that, who was it that ended up getting the Dragon Medallion?
It was Sub-Zero, Bihan.
And then Scorpion killed him.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Which Mortal Kombat mythologies?
Hey, you're right.
Yep. So that whole series ends up with the new Sub-Zero taking over and leading into Mortal Kombat 3, which of course it wasn't matching up with Mortal Kombat 3's story.
It also didn't match up with Baraka's run because Noob Saibot turns up in that run.
Did he?
Yeah.
And that's before Bihan actually dies.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they weren't considered the same character until later. That was a decision made later, but it's still pretty interesting to look at.
Back on the topic of the Mortal Kombat live action show, I don't know if you guys realize this, but one of the actors who played Jax is Hakeem the Machine Alston.
Mm-hmm.
And he was huge into martial arts. He was in the USA karate team in like 1984 to 1990. He went on to play the braided, used to call him the tiger guy in the Mortal Kombat movie. The one that fights with the bow staffs against Liu Kang.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, he was Jax in the live tour. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I had no idea. I found a picture of him just yesterday, and I was like, wait a second.
Now, those arms that he's wearing in that photo, they're not the best, are they?
it was like sleeves that he slid on.
I think I have something similar, like a fake tattoo sleeve.
Yeah, they could definitely do better than that.
So Mortal Kombat the movie, I mean, we could go on for ages of how that impacted the rest of the series.
Well, I think first and foremost, the most significant impact that you can see that it had on the games was the portrayal of Kano.
Yeah.
His
Yes.
nationality has totally changed because of what that movie portrayed him.
Yeah, even in the Malibu comics, he was portrayed as a orphan from Hong Kong who fell into the Black Dragon, but now he's Australian.
And the change fits him quite well.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they're ever going to walk that one back.
No, I don't think so. I feel like it's a good change too, because it's kind of an homage to Trevor Goddard, rest in peace, because he did such an incredible portrayal of Kano throughout the entire movie.
Oh yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Give me a break. The quote, guys. The quote.
I was like, wow, Yanni, that's super insensitive.
No, it's all right. I studied all your moves.
Study this. Well, that brings us to, I guess, Sonya, too, which I feel inspired a lot of, Shang Tsung, which you can see in MK11.
Yeah, with Shang Tsung, obviously, once they brought Kerry Tagawa back and just said, okay, well, now he's exactly like he was in the movie. That's how he is in the game. He's just the same guy. Not just inspiration, but just literally dropped him right in.
Yeah, and it fits perfectly.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I think also for Mortal Kombat 11 too, he played a mix of both characters, in my opinion. He was the villainous serpent, but at the same time, he was kind of the Shang Tsung that we're used to from the video games, manipulating things and doing things behind the scenes that you're not really sure, making different arrangements that you don't see come to fruition until there is a deadly alliance in your face and a deception.
You just wanted to throw all those names into it, didn't you?
Well, it's true. I mean, in this one, in MK11, and especially, of course, obviously with Aftermath, you really have a chance to see Shang Tsung's scheming side a lot more than they usually have a chance to go into in the games. And I think Kerry Tagawa pulled that off in a way that the movies didn't really have a chance to. And hey, just a reminder, Kerry was also Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat Legacy.
Yes,
that's right. Yep.
In the second season, anyway. Not in first, they had somebody else in season 1, but in when they had him as Shang Tsung, and he's like, "It has begun." That was freaking amazing.
It was. He showed up with a shaved head and everything.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
It's like totally different guy, and yet it's exactly the same.
Well, he can shapeshift, so he can be whoever they want him to be.
Shang Tsung inevitably shapeshifts into Kerry Tagawa in every timeline.
Oh, amazing.
How about the fact that Liu Kang and Katana are a couple. We never
Yes,
really
that's
saw
right.
that until the movies.
Yeah, and Malibu didn't explore that at all either.
Well,
So
Malibu kind of seemed to explore Kung Lao and Katana slightly, like very like hinting at it, and then going into it in his solo series as well. Well, the solo issue basically, where Shang Tsung has turned up and is taking on everybody's form, and then he comes up as Katana, and it seems to get a little bit heated in a steamy way. But
whoa, I didn't read that one. You need to elaborate, or I got mental image right now.
Okay, no, nothing actually happens. But so Kung Lao is sitting there meditating, and he's in Outworld on his own because he's been banished there. And everybody that he's apparently just allied with, so Baraka, Katana, Sub-Zero, turns up to him, and then they say some stuff, and he sort of pushes them out of his mind, or he fights with them or something. And then Katana turns up, and she tries to get romantic with him, and he also pushes her away after being tempted. And then you see her turn into Shang Tsung.
Yeah, well, you don't see it, right? Like everything's kind of foggy, and it's always
true. Yep, we don't know what happened.
Yeah, but
just leaving that image there
for his part, Kung Lao doesn't seem interested at all.
But at the same time, there was a little bit of hinting in a previous issue, which I can't really remember when it was. It was the bit where they're all sort of talking together, and Reptile turns up. But this is just from memory, to be honest. And obviously, you could understand it differently. It's up to your interpretation, really.
Yeah, it might be one of those things where people read it a little bit differently. Some people might get that. I don't think I quite picked up on a Kung Lao Katana coupling, but maybe. I think because Liu Kang is the champion, and maybe Katana deserves a little bit better. She shouldn't get the second runner-up. Sorry, Kung Lao. Sorry, Kung Lao, but you know it's true, buddy.
She has a sister.
So, Mortal Kombat the movie, it also came out with the Journey Begins. It was so poorly animated, and there was not anything really new that came with that.
It really took a lot from the movie itself.
Yeah, but can I just point out one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins had Mortal Kombat characters in 3D before the games ever did.
True.
Yeah, it wasn't the best 3D, and we got the gray Kung Lao with a hat. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Right. That's right. And MK Conquest did that too.
I was just going to say, exactly, yeah.
For about 5 seconds.
There was one more little thing, which is kind of, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want them to run with this, but the Annihilation did Shao Kahn and Raiden as brothers, and that was touched on in MK versus DC, but only there.
That's right. That was the one game that hinted that Raiden and Shao Kahn are brothers, and they've never touched on that again.
Hallelujah.
I guess we can just discard that. I'll be honest. The idea of Raiden and Shao Kahn being brothers could have actually been really cool. It's just that the rest of Annihilation was already kind of so not cool that the idea has been tainted.
Yeah. I think Annihilation is what caused them not to continue with that plot point more than anything else.
Yeah, it could have been cool. And then, there's people who kind of confuse the game's canon with the movie's canon and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It should be kept separate, because now when people are watching MK11, they're thinking, oh, wow, so Raiden just decapitated Shinnok. That's his father he's decapitating. It's like, no, it's not.
There are fates worse than death. Where was the first time that was mentioned?
That was Katana and Scorpion's conversation in Mortal Kombat Tournament Edition #1. That's just going off the top of my head.
Yeah, so it's from the Malibu Comics.
That was a Malibu.
Yeah, Scorpion actually proposed to Katana, so that's a coupling we never saw.
And Scorpion was pretty much evil through in the entire Malibu series, which is not the anti-hero character that we're used to.
His backstory was very different, whilst maintaining some similarities, though.
That's true. Hey, there was one other thing that we should probably revisit before we move on. We never discussed the Mortal Kombat novel by Jeff Robin.
Oh, was that the based off the movie?
No, it predates the movie.
Oh.
So I read it. When I was a kid. That was probably the biggest book I ever read at the time.
You just kind of blew my mind.
Do you guys know anything about this? Do you guys know
I've never heard of this. No.
No? Okay.
I thought it was just based on the movie, but now what you're saying is something different. So yeah, you blow my mind too.
Okay. There's like at least 5 different Mortal Kombat books that you can sit down and read in English, in the English language. There's more in other languages, but we won't get into that. The point is, with the MK novel by Jeff Robin, they opened up with a Chinese myth about a being named Pan Ku, and he's kind of like the progenitor to all there is in the universe. So he was like the first thing that ever popped into existence, and when he died, his body and his organs kind of became the realms as we know them. So his left eye became the moon, and his right eye became the sun, and the 4 chambers of his heart became like 4 different worlds, including Earth, Outworld, the realm of the gods, and the realm of the dead. Those are the 4 realms that they had in the novel. And it just like, there's not a whole lot about this novel that really reminds me of anything else in the games, except for the Pan Ku part, because that's almost the story of the One Being.
The One Being, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Who was the author of this book?
Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked that. The author is named Jeff Rovin. It might be pronounced Jeff Rovin. If you don't know who he is actually a pretty big time video game author. Like that's kind of the niche that he fell into. He used to write a lot of joke books. So I had a lot of joke books by him as a kid. He also wrote some strategy guides, like how to beat Super Mario Brothers. But he's mainly known for being the author of a bunch of Tom Clancy's novelizations. So a lot of stuff to do with the whole Rainbow Six series.
Okay.
A lot of books that he adapted. And the crazy thing is, I found out later, he worked for the Clinton administration, and he was known as being the fixer. So anytime there's going to be some bad article about the Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or whatever in the news, Jeff Rovin would go and fix that for them. So what he would do is he would find some other story that he would pitch to the press and be like, look, if you kill the story in the Clintons, here's an even juicier story that I'm going to give you details on. So he did that for them. And I guess if you could get an interview with Jeff Rovin, that would be amazing. But he was interviewed like by big time. He was on like the Sean Hannity show and stuff like that. I would love to talk to him just about the Mortal Kombat novel, but I don't think he's reachable at this point.
Yeah, I don't think so, especially with those claims.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And to think this all ties into Mortal Kombat somehow.
It does. And, Jeff Rovin, he actually came up, if you read the book, he came up with a different name for Scorpion. He never came up with another name for Sub-Zero, but he did for Scorpion. So Scorpion was kind of like the good guy in his book. It was the opposite of the Malibu Comics. So Scorpion was a guy named Yong Park. And when Sub-Zero killed him, he wasn't really a member of another ninja clan or anything like that. He was a former Lin Kuei who had just retired. He wanted to live in peace with his wife and son, and nobody was allowed to leave the clan. So Sub-Zero tracked him down and killed him right in front of his son.
Technically, that is sort of the origin of the Shiraryu anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Wow. That's another influence.
You're right. Just 500 years earlier.
Wow. I didn't expect to find that sort of influence there. That's out of the blue.
Yeah, definitely, man. You can kind of see these influences. They come from a number of surprising places.
So I got to make sure to add that to my reading list. Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is... I'm just kidding.
I was like, wow, I didn't realize I had a sponsor for this episode.
Well, speaking of, if you do have an Audible account, you should seriously check out Philip Ahn's book. He's the guy who played Shang Tsung, the one that we agreed was our favorite character to use.
Yeah, Mortal Doctor.
Yeah. He wrote a book called Mortal Doctor, and the audiobook is actually available on Audible. So there you go.
Awesome.
I've seen he's been doing some great stuff during the crisis, by the way. So it's nice to see that.
Dude, he's an awesome doctor. He's saving patients' lives. It beats stealing their souls, I guess.
After the original movie, we had The Journey Begins. But then we went straight into Defenders of the Realm, which was really interesting because it kind of took place between Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3, but it was based on like the Mortal Kombat 3 timeline, and they added quite a bit to the story, and it was a follow-up to the movie because they would actually show scenes from the movie, of course animated though, and made at a more PG version of it.
Yeah, I would love that. So to me, the way it read was, this is a sequel to the Mortal Kombat movie, and it's going to sort of be placed loosely in the MK3 timeline because they're all wearing MK3 costumes. So
yeah, exactly.
You get the hint that you missed out on something. You get the hint that between the movie and the first episode, there's something that we missed. We just can't quite figure out what it is.
And the whole series, I mean, it's called Defenders of the Realm, and pretty much every episode they're defending Earth Realm or another realm, which was an interesting concept because they explored quite a bit of realms throughout that series.
Yeah, I loved it. They had Ilkhan, right? They had, they showed Zatara.
And they had Za, which was Rain's realm when Rain showed up.
Yeah, that's right. No, Rain was still an Edenian, but right, he was now doing something in the realm of Za.
Yeah, that's where he had led the like the underground resistance or something like that.
But speaking of Defenders of the Realm, I think the biggest influence on the games has been their wolf, Kiva.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because they ended up using that throughout the new games.
Yeah, so in the new one, they changed the spelling and the pronunciation. It's now Kiva instead of Kiva. But obviously, the inspiration was there.
I don't remember Defenders of the Realm too much. I actually watched the episodes in random orders a long time ago. But what you've mentioned about Rain leading the resistance, that ties into his bio now.
Yeah. Now, also in the show, Rain was Katana's ex-fiance. Did that tie it all into the games?
No, although I'm sure a lot of people shipped them for a while.
No, they never covered anything like that.
As well as Rain, we also got to see Cyrax and Sector and Smoke. And on that episode, we actually got to see the human forms of them, where Sector was actually depicted as a black character, and Cyrax was depicted as a Caucasian. And those two roles kind of reversed later on in like Mortal Kombat 4 or Mortal Kombat Gold, I think it was, when
it was Gold.
Cyrax was finally unmasked. I thought that was pretty cool that they were starting to add that diversity into the characters in that animated series.
Yeah, I think definitely the Defenders of the Realm was the first one to pitch the idea like, hey, what if all these characters looked different underneath?
Yes.
And the idea of Cyrax being black, I think definitely was inspired by Defenders of the Realm having Sector being black.
Yeah, and this was the first time that we could see the human form of the cyber Lin Kuei.
This was 96, right? Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right.
Yep, they beat the games to the punch on that one.
Huh.
They also beat the games to the punch on having Quan Chi as a character.
Yes.
Like, they actually managed to show up in Defenders of the Realm first. So John Tobias finally tweeted about that not too long ago, and he said that he was working on the character, and Quan Chi was a John Tobias creation, but he shared everything that he could with the designers and the animators of the cartoon show, and they got to market before Mythologies did.
That's so cool.
On that topic, I'm so happy to see Tobias tweeting more and more often about MK. It's nice to get his insight into little things that we've been asking about for a while.
Yeah, it really is. He even answered a few questions of mine recently. Like, I was asking him stuff about the battle between the gods that they mentioned in MK Mythologies, and is that the same one that destroyed Zatera's race? Yeah, and he answered some stuff about Sub-Zero's scar. Like, he's really open with the fans. I think John Tobias is great. If you're a lore guy, you pretty much have to thank everything that you love about Mortal Kombat. You pretty much have John Tobias to thank for that. Yeah. He's kind of the creator of all of that stuff. That was all his brainchild.
For me, it's all Tobias and all Vogel in terms of lore,
Yes.
They're the backbones. Tobias especially is the backbone of the entire series. Everything branched off of what he designed.
Yeah, that's right. And I think Vogel did a very good job of taking what he did and expanding on it.
Yep.
And I think everybody since then has sort of been trying to recapture that magic and maybe putting a new twist on it. But those are really the guys that came up with everything that there is in Mortal Kombat.
So also in Defenders of the Realm, we got to see a red female ninja.
Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby. Ruby was in Defenders of the Realm. And wasn't Ruby also the code name for Scarlet at some point? Fans were using
Ruby
it or something?
Sort of was one of the things that I think led to the rumors of Scarlet, because there was also the glitch, right, with Katana turning up looking red, if I remember correctly. But I feel like this added to it.
There were rumors about an Ermac glitch, and there were rumors about a Scarlet glitch. Those have been unsubstantiated. No one's been able to reproduce those glitches. So they're probably just rumors. But I think the name Scarlet was actually what fans were using even before Defenders of the Realm was a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there were some posts online in 1994, I think, talking about Scarlet. So the fans were really into the fake news even back then. Loved it.
Well, that was part of the fun, in my opinion, back then. Like, yeah, talking about all these rumors and seeing what was true, what wasn't true. I remember even just during Deception, I remember searching everywhere, like online and in game, for a way to play Rain, because somebody mentioned online on a forum that there was a way to play Rain.
Even today, it still factors in a lot. Like a lot of the fake leaks that come out all the time. Fans jump on it. They're excited to see what could possibly come out next with the game.
Yeah, like, is Kano's son Dominic going to be in there?
Yeah, I would love to see that, actually.
For the record, I would not.
Out of all the combat kids.
we have enough combat kids and Black Dragon.
So speaking of Kano, in Defenders of the Realm, this solidified the Australian accent. They actually played him as an Australian in that show.
Yeah, now that made sense because obviously it's a follow-up to the movie, right? So of course they're going to keep him Australian. But I think the first game that actually kind of solidified that was really Mortal Kombat Deception, when you got to play through Conquest mode and you got to interact with Kano, playing as Shujinko, and you see Kano for the first time. It's like, okay, what's he going to sound like? Are they going to go with the games? Are they with the previous games? Are they going to go with the movies? And bam, they settled on Australian. It's like, okay, that answers that.
I like to think that he is an Australian who was orphaned in Hong Kong, joined the Black Dragon, but maintained his accent.
Let's just say that he grew up in a lot of different places, and Australia was the main place. Yeah.
After Defenders of the Realm came out, we got Mortal Kombat Conquest, which, for those listeners who haven't listened to our latest episode with Jeffrey Meek, we dove highly into this. But let's talk about some of the influence from Conquest into the video games.
I guess for starters, we could talk about the Master Cho
I was going to say that too. Yeah, exactly. We had Bo and now we have Cho.
I mean, how is there a Bo Rai Cho in the games and there was also a Master Cho? And, they're both masters. Like, that's just a coincidence or what? I know you guys know that the name Bo Rai Cho was supposed to have come from the Spanish
Borracho.
word borracho, for drunk. Yeah. So I don't know if this is a coincidence or if somebody who was working on the games saw the TV show and said, I have a way I can sneak this in there.
Did Master Cho carry over any other similarities to Bo Rai Cho?
Well, he taught the great Kung Lao a little bit. And I guess he had some form of ties to Outworld in a way, which you could relate both to Bo Rai Cho with Liu Kang, as well as his origin actually being Outworld.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff, though. He was very different. I mean, first of all, he didn't seem to drink any alcohol. It's kind of Bo Rai Cho's whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember him farting in that episode. Do you?
I do not, no.
No, I don't think he farted once. So there's a few differences there. But the main thing I would say is Master Cho would steal people's life force.
Yes.
He said he's not like Shang Tsung. He's not going to steal their souls. He's just going to take their life force so that he can make himself live a little bit longer.
But they had Master Cho being the one who taught Shang Tsung in Conquest how to do that.
That's right.
And, that kind of ties into the life force / soul stealing, how they're kind of different, but they can be used together, like we saw in Mortal Kombat 11.
Yes.
Yeah. So in Mortal Kombat 11, they don't really go into the technical differences between like a stealing life force and stealing a soul, but there was something about Raiden and Fujin being gods. Shang Tsung says if you make sure to keep them alive, and you can drain them for all eternity. Like, you want to talk about how there's fates worse than death? That would be one.
Mm-hmm. Although, I feel like Shinnok is the prime example of that, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. Without a question. Yeah, Shinnok definitely got ahead of us on that one.
I started this episode with a pun, and now I'm starting to regret it a little bit.
Yep, this was all your fault.
Well, I mean, just the sort of backgrounds to the Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu, just how they sort of came intertwined in the story, as well as like the Lin Kuei kidnapping their members, from what it seemed like. I don't remember if that was stated by that point in time. It was 1998, but that was something that really stuck with the Lin Kuei for a while as well. The forming of the Shirai Ryu was, well, completely different in this case, as well as Scorpion's actual origin being, a soul inside of a scorpion. But it's still interesting to look back and see how they came together and how the rivalry was presented in Conquest itself.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch the whole Scorpion and Sub-Zero fights. Obviously, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are much older characters in MK Conquest, and that's kind of a risk that writers take when they make a sequel. With a prequel, is that they have to change the origin of some of your favorite established characters in order to make them show up in a time period where they really shouldn't have existed yet.
Yeah, I just don't think you could have left those two out.
No. I mean, they found a way to put obviously the Lin Kuei had a reason to exist back then. They're an ancient clan, and the Shirai Ryu were an ancient clan, but they really wanted to make sure we knew it was Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Those names had to be used.
It's too bad, because this would have been a great way to introduce the codename Tundra or the codename Sub-Zero as a designator for a special Lin Kuei warrior, because in the series, Sub-Zero acquired his power through the Lin Kuei by submerging his hands in freezing cold water.
No. That was just a form of training for him.
Was it?
He apparently had the lineage already, and Sub-Zero was a codename given to him when he passed the training.
So, but still, I mean, it could have been somebody else besides Bihan.
Yes, yeah.
Well, yeah, but no, remember, the name Bihan hadn't been established yet, so of course it wasn't him. And also on that show, remember, they had Noob Saibot. Noob Saibot was a completely different character as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
He was like the essence of a warrior trapped in a jar of oil. I always imagined him as kind of being like made of shadows, and I thought that was sort of the reason why he was all black, and he was so hard to see against Goro's lair in MK2. But in MK Conquest, they took Noob Saibot in a completely different direction by having him really having his whole essence be oily.
Exactly, yeah.
And the oil design factors in a lot into the new games.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. So pretty much they've used both the shadow and the oiliness with how he plays.
Absolutely. So you can see it if you watch the MK Conquest episode with Noob Saibot, you can kind of see how the games have changed as a result of that.
He was very brutal in Conquest. I remember him being very aggressive.
Not very likable.
No, not at all.
Not a very likable character. You really wanted to see him lose. You know, sometimes they make the villains sympathetic and you can kind of see where the villains are coming from. Not new.
Yeah, he was very brutish. It was interesting. An interesting take on him, honestly. It was cool to see him. I just wish we actually got that smoke teaser, although we're getting off topic now. But yeah.
I remember that. Wasn't there going to be an episode called Smoked Ice?
I think so.
I seem to recall that.
Either smoke or smoked ice.
Yeah, we never did quite get that. We saw smoke for like five seconds at the tail end of an episode and then never again.
I feel like there's a bit of an illusion with Ciro and Taja as well as Johnny and Sonya in a way, kind of, with how they were sort of partnering up or grouping up with Liu Kang and the Great Kung Lao.
But I'll tell you what, if you really want to see the influence that this had, have you read the Mortal Kombat X comics?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there is a part where it says something like many conquests ago, and then they show the Koreans.
Yes.
And it's like, wait a minute, Korea and the Koreans, those were a character established in MK Conquest. And for them to even use the word many conquests ago, oh, they know exactly what they're doing there.
Well, that was going to be somebody that I brought up, Korea, or the Koreans, which I feel are mirrored by the Kaitans.
A lot. They're insect-based. They're an insect-based race.
Yeah. How they're all like protecting the hive and everything, the queen.
So, the similarities are there. I just thought it was interesting that even though in the games they established the Kaitin, in those MKX comics they established that the Kaitin and the Koreans both exist side by side.
That's cool. And the games are officials, so that makes them legit lore.
I think they were a very cool piece of lore anyway, so I'm happy for them to be canon.
I was so excited when I saw their introduction. And
we also had Quan Chi and Shang Tsung throughout Conquest, where they were sort of mainstays in the actual episodes. But we actually saw them team up in an episode called Unholy Alliance.
Yeah, that definitely seems like a precursor to Deadly Alliance. I mean, when they announced at Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance and that Shang Tsung and Quan Chi were going to be the bosses together, immediately my mind went to the episode of MK Conquest.
Exactly, yeah.
But hey, you want to know something else? If you read the MK Mythology's instruction booklet, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, you'll see that Quan Chi and Shang Tsung have actually teamed up before, even before MK Conquest.
What does it say? Yeah.
So what happened was the deal they had going on was after Shang Tsung killed the Great Kung Lao and stole his soul, he got his memories. He got access to his memories. He could see everything that was in his soul, and he knew where the map of elements was.
Oh,
and
yes.
he knew that Quan Chi would want this information. So they made a bargain. Shang Tsung would give Quan Chi access to the map of elements, tell him where it is, and in return, Quan Chi would take Sindel's soul, and with Shinnok, they would taint it with evil so that she could one day be resurrected on Earthrealm.
The lore for Mortal Kombat is amazing.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
You find the lore in like the most random places.
Yeah.
Oh, man. If you just look through it, there's so much good stuff in it.
There was also, my final bit from Conquest, really, which was the Cobalt mines of the Shogun.
Yes. In fact, we got to go back even more. The Cobalt mines of Shogun were first mentioned in The Journey Begins.
They were in Malibu Comics too.
Well, not the Malibu comics. They made its way into the MK4 comic, but it was really in The Journey Begins first.
Really?
Yeah, that's where Shang Tsung was banished to the Cobalt mines of Shogun. That whole subplot for the whole plot of MK Conquest was Shang Tsung's banishment to the Cobalt mines of Shogun.
Yes, exactly. And it was actually really cool to see them.
And that was just one sentence mentioned in The Journey Begins. And Raiden says that it was there that many years later he met Prince Goro, and that's where the two of them teamed up.
Huh.
But MK Conquest really, really showed us how it all works. I mean, Cobalt was basically like the Outworld's version of Kryptonite.
Yeah.
Where it took away Outworlder's magic. I mean, that's all you need to do if you're an Earthrealmer. If you want to win Mortal Kombat, just bring a bunch of Cobalt with you. You're the champion.
Take this Superman. What?
Oh, that's one thing I don't think they'll ever bring into the games. Just having good guys win using Cobalt.
It's really weird because I'm trying to think back now. I was so sure that the Cobalt mines were mentioned prior to the MK4 comic. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, look into it. But as far as I know, and I've kind of looked into it a little bit already, the Cobalt mines were first mentioned in Defender of the Realm, and then next in and then there's the MK4 comic where Reptile was banished, and MK Conquest where they showed Shang Tsung's banishment. And that was basically it. Those were the three references to the Cobalt mines of Shogun.
I mean, I trust you, if anyone, on this stuff. So
I don't know if this helps, but I also used to drive a Chevy Cobalt, so there's that.
Oh my gosh.
That's it. I'm not even going to do my research after this. That's it. Well, how about we move into Legacy now? Well, we have touched on it already, but there were still a couple things that we haven't really mentioned. We've gone through Hydro, but
yes. Well, there was the whole retelling of Scorpion's family and clan, the Legacy version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think I kind of prefer the original one from MK Mythology's Sub-Zero, but
Same.
But Legacy's was, it was good too.
It was a cool, different take on things.
That whole origin too has kind of cemented itself now in Mortal Kombat lore. The Legacy's Scorpion origin.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, you kind of saw the retelling that Quan Chi did as a flashback in MK9 when he was manipulating Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of saw what looked to be something very similar to MK Legacy's retelling. And then, of course, we had the more recent animated feature, Mortal Kombat Legends: Scorpion's Revenge.
Yep.
Which I think was actually better than MK Legacy's retelling. What do you guys think, if you had to rank them?
I see. I like seeing live action people fight.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of Kevin's work, but as a whole, I wasn't a big Legacies fan, but as individual episodes, I did like this Scorpion Sub-Zero one.
Yeah, I really did like this specific episodes, and I feel like I agree that Scorpion's original origin fits way better, so I would prefer not to see this taken in as the new canon.
So MK Mythologies is number one for all of us, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. Mythologies was hated on by a lot of the fans, now rightly so in terms of gameplay, but it really provided us with so much in terms of lore that we really have to appreciate it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really think you do too. I think the lore for that game was the best. I think the cutscenes were so much fun to watch. Really, I think that the cutscenes in MK Mythology Sub-Zero were so well done. It was definitely better than MK Annihilation.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I have replayed the one scene where Sub-Zero is captured and Scorpion turns up. Is like, don't bother worrying about escape. You know, that whole thing. It's just, I'm Scorpion, you've killed me in cold blood. I've replayed that so many times that my flatmates in uni hated me. Just every time they heard that video, they were like, not again.
Yeah, man. No, it was great. But something, going back to MK Legacy now, something where it inspired the games was Scorpion's mask in that one. That episode with Scorpion's mask, you can use that as a customizable skin now. It's amazing.
I'm trying to think. It's definitely influenced by that, but as far as I know, the only one that we have close to it in MK11 is it's sort of got teeth on it, right?
Yeah.
It's that sort of style. I do hope that we actually get a Legacy version. That would be really cool because it is slightly different.
You know what? It is different, and I might be thinking more of something like one of Kenshi's masks or something like that. It looks exactly like Scorpion's.
That's it. It's Kenshi's.
Kenshi's mask looks exactly like MK Legacy's Scorpion mask, but I freaking love it.
Ronin Kenshi. That was it.
Ronin Kenshi. That's it. Ronin Kenshi. You reminded me.
It does look awesome. I really hope that they would give that to Scorpion in MK11. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, nowadays with DLC and patches and stuff like that, anything's possible.
Let's hope.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit before, but reintroducing Kerry Tagawa as Shang Tsung in the second season of Legacy, I think that's what kind of cemented him to come back for the video games.
Yes.
Oh,
I think so too.
Yeah, he was just establishing himself as the Shang Tsung in all medium.
Yeah.
And he tied it to a very interesting contrast between Liu Kang and Kung Lao and how it's been done differently from, well, all other forms of media where Liu is the arrogant one who loses his way as compared to Kung Lao.
I really think that the Liu Kang Liu Kang's story wasn't given justice. I mean, he was obviously Liu Kang was in a dark place there, but yeah, and Kung Lao was the one of peace, and it really that role reversal was a little jarring. I think they probably should have done it the other way. I mean, I get it that it's boring to see the same old story told over and over again, but
it's established.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, you know what? Going back to Cary Tagawa and his performance as Shang Tsung and everything like that, did you catch one of the intro dialogues in Mortal Kombat 11? He mentions Master Boyd.
Really?
Yeah, if you fight with Shang Tsung against Johnny Cage, in one of the intro dialogues, Shang Tsung will say, Master Boyd sends his regards. And Johnny Cage is like, you killed him, didn't you?
How have I... Shang Tsung's my main in Mortal Kombat 11. How have I not heard this?
Dude, at some point, if you really want to catch it all, either go to MK Warehouse and read them, or just go on YouTube and watch one of those videos where they show like all the character dialogues. They're just so good.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. That's crazy. We did also have a huge influence, which I did not like, with Ermac becoming more zombie-like.
Yeah, I didn't think that was a fitting direction for Ermac. I mean, Ermac is an amalgamation of souls, so... Yeah, he... Obviously, all these souls are dead, so he should be a zombie. Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm sold.
That 180. I just wasn't a fan, and I feel like, because for me, Ninja Ermac is my favorite look for him. I like the sort of bandaged head mask, but his alternate costume in MK9 for me was the best Ermac has ever looked. And they really went down this sort of mummification zombie-like process with him in MKX, which I wasn't a fan of.
Yeah, I mean, and especially, like the Pharaoh Ermac. I mean, have you seen that one from MK Mobile?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's really out there. It's real. I mean, look, I guess it's good because these kind of alternate costumes, these alternate variations, let them explore like different takes on characters. But that is a bizarre direction for them. I mean, is one of the souls inside Ermac Egyptian or something? Like, what is it?
Nah, it's just one of those themed skins, It's like Cetrion with her sort of Egyptian skin as well.
Yeah, but see, that I could get because it's like, all right, well, she wanted to be worshipped by a bunch of different cultures. So this is how she appeared when she went to ancient Egypt.
Ooh,
like
that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, see, that one I can work. Yeah, it's fair. But Pharaoh isn't. Not for Ermac.
I don't know. I think they just went down the whole mummy sort of process, considering he already looked like one with the bandages.
Yeah.
Not a fan, but I see it,
Yeah. Well, they would do stuff like that, too, that it really doesn't tie to the lore that well. Like, Elder God Kenshi. Why would Kenshi become an Elder God?
Yeah, and honestly, Elder God Kenshi looks just like Fujin, but with short hair.
Also, if Elder God Kenshi is a thing, does he get his sight back, or does he still have to be blind, even as an Elder God?
The real questions.
Yeah. These are the things that keep MK fans up at night.
For me, I don't take those like the Elder God Kenshi or anything as canon, if you know what I mean. Like, for me, that's just mobile.
You can't. Like I'm saying, some of these costumes, they really don't tie together to the lore all that well.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I guess all you can say is, with Kronika, all things are possible, right? And in some timeline, maybe Kenshi did become an Elder God.
Possibly. Very possible, actually. Although now we have no idea where he is.
No.
Let me ask you, what is your favorite all-time Mortal Kombat finisher?
Oh, yeah, that would have to be Liu Kang's Dragon fatality, especially as they first showed it in Mortal Kombat 2.
Oh, yeah.
Classic.
I mean, look, Liu Kang's Dragon is so big in that game, like the sprites for it are so large, they actually had to make the energy bars disappear for it so that you could see it all.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you knew something big was going to go down. That's the only fatality they do that with.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I never really noticed that.
Yeah, I freaking love it.
All right, and we know where, but please tell our listeners who maybe aren't aware, where can they find you?
Oh, okay. Well, the number one place that you can find me at is probably YouTube. I am always doing Mortal Kombat lore videos on YouTube. So the easiest place to do it is youtube.com/tabmok99. I'm also easy to find on Twitter. I'm pretty active. On Instagram, I'm getting more active. I've even do Twitch streams sometimes. tabmok99 on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. But mostly YouTube. Then, of course, if you want to see the Combat Pavilion, all that stuff is still up at tabmok99.mortalkombatonline.com.
Yes.
I'm going to have to go through it just for a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out. Look at the screensavers, look at the Winamp skins, look at the comics and the animations that people have submitted over the years.
I'm going to have to download Winamp just so that I can download a cool Winamp skin.
I was just going to say the same thing.
It really whips the llama's ass.
For those of you who do not know what Winamp is, that is their slogan. It's our old MP3 player from the 90s. So
good times.
Oh, hey, Winamp and Mortal Kombat have the same corporate owner now. Did you know that?
what Warner Brothers owns them both?
Yeah, like Time Warner bought out AOL, who bought Netscape and Winamp like back then. Yeah, like Warner's got it all now.
I think it's time for another team up.
Didn't they close Winamp down?
Yes, they did.
Sad times.
Well, tabmok99, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us on this episode. It was a pleasure to have you on the Realm Kast, and we hope to have you back.
Seriously, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, FANTiM. Thank you, Yanni. Thank you both. Have a good one, guys.
And thank you to all of our listeners for stopping by. We'd like to give a special thanks out to Uppercut Editions for their continued support. You can find them at Encyclopedia MK on Twitter and the Mortal Kombat Encyclopedia Project on Facebook. You can catch up on all episodes of the Realm Kast on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, and Spotify. You can find Yanni and myself, FANTiM, on the Mortal Kombat group on Facebook, as well as Yanni on the Mortal Kombat Meme Realm.